It's battery day. What the heck is that?
It's the coolest day of the year. Everybody gets as they want.
I'm so excited for Battery Day. Tesla is having a shareholder meeting today, and they are announcing some new products and technologies, which we can talk a little bit about. Welcome to the Clean Power Hour. I'm Tim Montague, your co-host, and I'm joined by my co-host, John Weaver, aka the Commercial Solar Guy. Welcome to the show, John.
Hey, Tim, how are you this week?
Always good to see you. We have a lot to cover today, so let's dive right in. It is
All
Battery
right.
Day, and I have been geeking out on the Tesla battery ecosystem. There's a ton of great podcasters that are covering Tesla on a daily basis now. My favorite is the limiting factor, so check that out. All of our listeners, check out the limiting factor. Um, it's predicted now that they're going to launch their own battery manufacturing in addition to working with companies like Panasonic and LG, right? What are you looking forward to with Battery Day?
I just want to get a little firmer information on the next generation batteries, what they're going to do with maybe these anode-less products that are coming out of the Canadian research labs, and how exactly they're going to use the cathode company that they bought, Maxwell. Um, there's a lot already that's been talked about, so we have like probably 50% insight, but those key items. And then of course, who the heck knows what Elon's going to say? He always likes having fun and entertaining, so it's going to be 3/4 technical, 1/4 picture show. Let's see what kind of fun we can learn.
Yeah, I think Battery Day is a bit of a misnomer because there's going to be a lot more to it than just batteries. They're going to be talking about the plaid drivetrain for the Model S. They're going to be talking about million-mile batteries is the big news, and following shortly after that, probably 2 million-mile batteries. The efficiency gains that are anticipated by all of these experts are on the order of 20 to 40% on a volume basis. So things are dynamic. Impact their storage. It's about the e-world, but it's also about the Megapack, their storage product line, different chemistries, moving away from cobalt as much as possible, and embracing nickel. I love the quotes by Elon Musk that if you're a nickel miner, please mine more nickel.
Yeah, he also is pushing specifically not only for more nickel, for more products, but for social justice considered mining, so that we're not just grabbing crap out of the ground and hurting the ground, because part of this is the mission is to forward the species. And so it's really interesting to hear some of his logics there that he's pushing with these companies. And I bet these mining groups respond because they have to deal with things, but they want to do better. I know that they want to do better.
Yeah, absolutely. Cobalt in particular has human rights issues. Apparently, children are used widely in the cobalt mining industry, so all of the manufacturers want to try to move away from cobalt. But let's talk solar news of the day. I'm going to share my screen here, and hands-on with a solar power operating and maintenance financial and labor model. You've referenced this report, I think, on previous shows as well. I love this photo of the worker carrying a solar panel and the ballast trays of a solar project under construction. What's going on here, though, with this O&M financial and labor model?
So this is a second story in a series. The first story was to cover the research paper that came from the National Renewable Energy Lab. And they just wrote a really nice document saying, here's what we think real O&M costs are. Here's why. Here's the statistics that we used to predict it. Here's some equations. And then they said, and here's a spreadsheet model you can use based on this math, these equations, that you can apply to your project. And so I covered that a couple months ago, and I finally got around to actually working the spreadsheet and going through it seeing what the goods and the negatives are. And roughly speaking, it's a solid document. It's a good document to put in front of a customer so they understand what challenges they might have, what things they might have to pay for. It's close to being a fully useful document. There needs to be a little bit of refinement here and there on a couple of pieces. But what its main goal and what I kind of like is it gives you a rough idea about the amount of money you might spend, and then it says when you might spend it. So you can, just kind of protect yourself a little bit more from the financial side of things. And, so that's a challenge with some people. And so with this tool, with this model, we now get a spreadsheet format talking about specific pieces of hardware. And it's just another nice tool to add to the quiver, because, when you're sitting down with a customer and they're like, hey, what's O&M? And be like, well, I don't know, but here's a model that came from the smartest people on the planet when it comes to renewables. And so I kind of like it. I like the spreadsheet. They have an online version now. I'm going to make use of that, write another article. And, O&M, I like O&M. O&M is kind of fun.
For sure, O&M is becoming a bigger and bigger part of our industry as solar grows. There's going to be a greater need for O&M. The analogy I like to make with solar is look around your neighborhood today, how many auto parts stores there are. There's parts stores and the bucks in most neighborhoods. And that's because we all drive ICE engine cars. And tomorrow, we're all going to have a solar array on our facility or somehow affiliated with our facility and a battery. And so there's going to be this whole ecosystem popping up for O&M parts and service on solar projects and solar technologies. The Jinko has set a record. I want to talk about this story. Share my screen here in a second. Story on PV Magazine.
Nope, not
PV
just
Europe,
PV
sorry.
Europe. Yes.
So Europe. That site is annoying me, but I'm going to share my screen anyway. So what is the breakthrough that Jinko has announced?
It's not a real breakthrough. It's a progression. This is their N-type mono cell. This is their leading cell, and they've just been incrementally moving it up, one little nuance, one after another. And right now, Jinko and Longi are the two folks with a standard silicon solar cell boxing it out. And I bet you Longi is at most a 1/4% behind Jinko. I'm sure they're in the 24% range. And I just like to see it. It's getting close to 25%, and 25% is going to be a good number. 25% is going to be a number that a lot of, it's just, it looks pretty, of course, but it's just the efficiency levels that we're getting. It's just nice. It's saving the cost of installation. We're making better use of roofs. Most solar systems that I size for residential customers now, we're now covering their electricity usage. Usually we have plenty of roof space left over. I really like that. So I just, I'm just like any other fanboy. It's like, ooh, big number, record, rah. It's cool. Jinko set a record. Good job, Jinko.
Yeah, 24% is a very high efficient module. Many
That's
solar
not a
modules
module.
are still in the.
This is a cell.
Oh,
these are cells.
okay,
Cell.
Yes, excuse me, thank you. But it applies effectively to the module as well. We would talk about the module efficiency. You're going to maybe lose a little bit at the module level compared to the cell level. I think of SunPower as the manufacturer that is the benchmark for cell efficiency and module efficiency, but these other monocrystalline manufacturers are knocking on their door, and it's a race. So we want more efficient solar cells. There is a physical limit. I think it's predicted to be in the 30 to 40% range. So there is room for improvement still, but it is going to asymptote, right? It doesn't just keep going up and up and up over time.
Well, actually, so two comments. One, SunPower doesn't manufacture solar panels anymore. That breaks my heart. Maxion does now. They bought out all their lines. So it's kind of a little, I have to come to accept this new reality, which I just still haven't fully emotionally accepted. SunPower is the only distributor of the product in the United States. So the only place where you're going to get the Maxion IBC interdigitated back contact cell is still through SunPower, but they're no longer the manufacturer. In terms of efficiency peaks, so we're reaching the first limit. And the first limit for efficiency is with a single layer solar cell. And somewhere within the physics, it's anywhere from 27 to 29% that a single layer solar cell is going to max out at. It could even be in the 25, 26. I think it's a touch higher. The next layer of technology are the tandem solar cells. So we're going to have, for instance, Oxford PV, located in Oxford, also in Germany. They have perovskite on top of a standard PV. And right now they're at like a 27-ish, 28-ish% solar cell. Supposedly they're going to be launching their product for the market in January, February in limited runs. And then by midsummer, we may see their product for sale. And within 2 to 3 years, they're hoping to be at 30% on a module level, which would be big. The highest efficiency panel I've ever read about, ever seen, is a 6, 7, 8 layer solar cell made by NREL, only in the lab, and it was like 40 some percent. And they said if they tweak it, they could break 50%. And that's pretty cool. So, you know, we may never use a 50% module in our house because it just might not make financial sense, but we might. I mean, at least we got something to aim for. 50% efficiency would be pretty huge, pretty serious. So,
well, speaking of PV technology, in your Twitter feed, you described this as a Solyndra, but for farms. This is a story about a new technology being developed in Germany. It's a cylindrical solar PV panel, and it is reminiscent of Solyndra in that it's using thin film technology. I'm going to go to the PV magazine story here as well, but what are you excited about here?
Well, I like agrivoltaics. I just really like the concept of combining solar plus farming on the same land. I saw some really great research done by Fraunhofer, the PV Institute in Germany, and they did a model where they said, okay, if we do a wheat field, we'd make 100% of our output for wheat. If we do a solar farm, we do 100% output of solar. But if we build a new system that does as best we can get 80% of our wheat and 80% of our solar from the same land. Now, the value of those two items are a little bit off, but roughly you could say solar plus farming gets 160% productivity out of the same land. So agrivoltaics really interests me because, you know, this is already land that's open. This is land that where, you know, we don't want to lose our food production capabilities ever, of course. And if we can squeeze additional revenue out of land we're already working, if we can get money to farmers a little more, all of that just seems to fit. So I'm just really interested in agrivoltaics. This company interests me in their product. I think they're going to be very competent in making the product. And the reason I say that is for a few years, I worked for a lighting company, a group named Baghelli. They're based down in Italy. And the company I worked for was in Miramar, Florida. And they make, it's within the lighting industry. They make a round cylindrical LED. And LED manufacturing and LED production is super similar to photovoltaics. You have a similar hardware, just all kinds of neat things that are similar. So I just have a feeling that their expertise at making round lights with LEDs will mean that they're going to make a good product, whether it's financially viable, whether it sells, whether the efficiencies there, all those kinds of things have to come out in the wash. But I don't know, take a swing, go for it. I like it.
I love agrivoltaics too. I agree. I think it's a great application for photovoltaics. You create some shade for the plants so they have less evapotranspiration. The whole field stays cooler. The PV stays cooler, so you get a bump in production of your PV. I'm not sure if this thin film tube-like PV has legs. I like just flat panels, right, on stilts so that you can run workers and tractors and goats underneath. Sorry, not goats, sheep. The goats are too jumpy. But running sheep under PV is also a component of agrivoltaics, and they're doing some studies on this in the Northeast. There's actually an association now dedicated to agrivoltaics, headquartered, I think, in Massachusetts, somewhere up there in the Northeast. But it's definitely something that we will see more and more of, because there are some crop plants that like a little bit of shade, and then you can get power and plants out of the same field.
In the Netherlands, I was reading about a blueberry field, and they said the blueberry field generates more blueberries with the shade than it would in the open. China has like 1 gigawatt solar plus grape facility that's out west, and the grapes really appreciate the protection. I like the bifacial modules in agrivoltaics, but who knows? Let them swing. I like it.
Yep. So here's a story about another tracker technology that you spotted, and I'm gonna share my screen here.
I like Alion. I've seen Alion at multiple conferences. The key is scroll down a bit there so we can get a look at what's going on. They have a couple sales pitches. One is that you can build their hardware without any heavy equipment. There's no driving of piles. There's no heavy components. Everything can be moved, lifted, transferred by humans. When I met the gentleman at a conference, oh my gosh, a conference. When's the last time I've been to one of those? But I met the team at a conference, and they were just showing it to me. They showed me the heaviest component. They showed me the lightest component, and we just walked through it. And so first, that's the first piece. I really like this concept of being able to install a tracker in a complex location with just human beings. Like these guys, these are the guys that are doing all the work. You don't have to get a tractor. You can be on top of a mountain. It can be in places where machines are expensive, but labor is a little more fair priced. And then the second thing, you notice that concrete underneath that's kind of sort of part of the structure, specifically designed to increase the albedo of the bifacial. And that's super interesting, because I keep wondering if we're going to alter the ground underneath the highest performance bifacial plants. It sounds really expensive, so I assume no, but I don't know. We'll see. There's some neat things happening.
The concrete is part of the.
Yes.
The concrete is part of the structure and a required part of this particular racking system.
Yeah, I think in fact.
And what is the name product? Because.
Oh, well, that's the installation company. Cylindrical. The main product, the company manufacturer is Alion Energy, Alion Energy. They're the ones that manufacture the racking.
Okay.
I don't even know where that's being installed. Cylindrical. South America, Central America, Mexico, cool places. Yeah, there you go. Alion, good product.
Well, couldn't get to the website, but that's okay. Yeah, there's so much runway in the racking world. We have some great single axis trackers on the market, Next Tracker, Array Technologies, etc. And but we're going to see many more that are, like you said, in this case, more friendly to the human installers and not requiring heavy equipment.
I keep wondering if this would be a viable.
Although the concrete might.
Yeah, sorry for interrupting,
Say
but
that
I keep
again.
I keep wondering if this is going to be a more viable product for just smaller installations. Can we get a 1/4 megawatt, a 250 kW single axis tracking system? So far, no one's let me do it with less than a mega or two because they say it's not financially viable. That'd be kind of neat if we could get a smaller one because the machinery is less because it's just straight human labor. You're right about the concrete though. How do you pour that? What kind of machinery is necessary?
Yeah, I'm not crazy about concrete on solar arrays just because you're covering up the soil, and the soil is a living, breathing organism as much as the rest of the solar field. But should we move on?
Absolutely. I like the next story.
So Tesla virtual power plant in South Australia, first to lift FCAS capacity to 10 megawatts. What's going on here?
So Tesla a few years ago found out. First off, there's really kind of interesting the way this came to be. Elon Musk learned about some of the financial difficulties that were going on in the South Australia province of Australia and state, not a province. And he said, "Wow, we really can help with our power walls with the electricity issues." So they've slowly rolled out 2,000 power walls, and then they've linked them together. And those units being linked together are now, as a virtual power plant, being managed centrally, are now in the big grid as a resource. The FCAS marketplace, that's a frequency, ancillary services, things of that nature, things to keep the big grid running. What I learned from reading this article is that currently in that marketplace, 2.5 gigawatts of this product, FCAS, frequency ancillary services, exists, and it's almost all run by fossils. So this is another revenue stream that energy storage people are going to be able to talk about. And I often hear it from the big power grid guys. Whenever I'm like, "Oh, I do solar power," and they're like, "Ha ha ha, we do big real adult stuff," and they're like, "We spin giant pieces of metal." And I'm like, "Well, you don't need to spin giant pieces of metal anymore. That's from the 1900s with our simpler technology." And this is it happening. This is the big spinning mass, the inertia that used to be required to keep the hertz at 60 or 50, to keep that value consistent on the power grid. Electronics are taking it over, and it's happening here. And this is an example. And in the US, we actually had a real big ruling. And you and I, we should be talking about it more in depth. But FERC ruled that distributed assets can bid into the wholesale markets. And this is similar to the energy storage rulings that have been coming down recently, them access things. This really means that your residential solar system, hypothetically, could be part of the big grid. This is coming. This is the reality. We're at the very early edges of it. Probably 20%, 40%, 50% of the power grid won't be done by the traditional centralized large power grids. It's going to be your house. It's going to be my business. It's going to be your car. It's going to be my car. It's going to be all these things around the edges. So the electric utilities are going to shrink. They need to admit this. And it's going to come from your house and my house. And this is chunks of it happening with Tesla.
Yeah, I'm super excited about virtual power plants. I think it's a burgeoning opportunity, as like today, less than 1% of Americans have a battery in their house. First, we're going to get them in our cars, and then we're going to get them in our houses. I mean, in California, of course, this is happening en masse. And but once you have all these installed built environment, it is a huge opportunity then to provide massive grid services which will reduce the need for things like additional substations, which are very expensive. And I think we're going to see a shift in the infrastructure, moving away from the traditional wires and substations to VPPs and wires. It's somewhat subtle, but it's an important shift. And
Yep.
you know, the utilities are going to shrink, but we're going to start consuming way more energy, John, right? When we electrify transportation and when we electrify heating and cooling for buildings,
This is true.
that's a
Good point.
lot of
Good point.
kWh we need on the grid.
Yeah, but a lot of those utilities are supplying heating via gas right now, so they'll be replacing it. They'll be shifting it, but that's a good point. There'll be a lot more kWh's, a lot less gas from heating. The cars, though, I guess the cars are definitely not powered by utilities, and the utilities see cars as a growth opportunity. So maybe we should rescind that thing I just said a few minutes ago, and I'll admit that I don't yet know the future fully, only a little bit.
Okay, while we're talking about cars and transportation, the Union of Concerned Scientists question, are EVs really better for the environment
Of course,
or
they're
better for the climate?
This is an older story. It's like from February. The reason I shared it, and I just wanted to point it out, is because on Saturday I'm picking up a Model Y. And so I've been looking at my numbers, what's going to be efficient. And there's a neat chart as you keep scrolling down that you get to see. And it shows how, what miles per gallon an ICE vehicle burning gas would have to run at in order to compete with an EV from an emissions standpoint. And in my region, it's well over 100 miles. It's, let's see, what's that chart? What do you have right there? You have 150 miles per gallon.
150 MPG,
That's
right?
for the most efficient EV. And I think that's going to be like 130 mile per gallon Model 3, Model S, somewhere in that range. You need a 150 mile per gallon gas car in New England to compete with my Model Y. And I wanted to know it for two reasons. One, I want to know how to offset it and balance it. But when I go down to the bar and I say, hey, I got my EV and I'm, having fun talking to my friends, there's always going to be one guy who's going to be like, oh, but it's powered by the grid. And then I want to be like, yep, look at this. And bam. And I'm just going to tell them to shut up because I hear it every time. And I wanted to find this chart again. And I thought we would like to see this chart again because look at that. The entire country, if you drive a Model 3, even in the dirtiest place in this country, in the Midwest where it runs on pure coal, you'd have to find a 53 mile per gallon gas car. The only cars that do that was like the Honda Insight from the year 2000 or something. There's no cars that get 53 miles per gallon. Not that I know of. Definitely no big trucks. So I just think this is cool. And I'm looking forward to being
maybe
a little
Prius
bit.
or something like that. But John, explain me something here. Why is there so much variation? Like in the upper Midwest, it says 52 MPG or 65 MPG in Michigan versus the 150. Why is that delta so great?
Well, the electricity that's being generated in those regions has certain CO2 characteristics. For instance, New York is very clean electricity because it's got a huge amount of hydroelectricity in the upstate region. Massachusetts has wind, it has nuclear, it has solar. The Midwest is powered by coal. And so if you got these coal states, even Kansas, which is like 45% wind, the rest of it's all coal. And so when you combine all of the electricity that's being generated, the solar plus the wind plus all these things, you get a rough CO2 per kWh, a rough emissions per kWh. And so that little mix, they have a logic. I'm sure if you read into the document, this logic is based on the local power grid. And then they say, okay, all the people that plug in within this little outlying region, they're really buying all the same type of electricity. And you notice the PJM chunk, upstate Michigan, downstate Michigan, all of New England, that's New England ISO, New York State. So they're just chunking it up based on local electricity cleanliness, and then applying that math to the car. And that's why you see the Midwest, which has a lot more coal. Places like Wyoming, whose economies are heavily based on coal, they're just shoveling it in, super cheap there. Why not?
Yep. Well, while we're talking about EVs, electric airplanes are also coming, and I don't know if this guy is somebody you regularly follow. I'm not familiar with Bertrand Piccard, but apparently he's flying an electric airplane, and I have seen one documentary about these electric airplanes. What is the fly time of an electric airplane, John? Do you have any idea?
Well, this one I have no idea. I just thought it was sweet because it just had a plug. I've never seen an airplane with a plug. And I know
Nope.
we need to get used to it, but that's just kind of cool.
It's a nice fat cable too.
Yeah, it's true. So first off, I don't follow Bertrand. However, he is a non-trivial person in the flight world. If I'm not mistaken, he flew a solar-powered airplane around the world. Like he was the guy that flew that big super wide airplane that's really wide that has batteries and everything. I think he was the pilot.
Solar One or whatever. Yeah, I remember that. I was wondering if he was a famous person. So I think you're onto something there.
Yeah. So I just love seeing the electric airplanes come on, and it's good timing to talk about it because today's battery day, and Elon Musk a few years back said, listen, when we get to 400 kWh per kilogram, we will be at a weight density, an energy density where airplanes start to make sense. The battery that he's announcing today has a greater than 400 kWh per kilogram density. So we've already seen it. I've already covered the research that talks about this, but now he's going to talk about it publicly. And I really think that we're going to have full, giant 747s, E747s, and they're just going to float in the sky. And I think they'll be twice as big as they are today, because maybe we'll have to do that. Maybe we'll just need giant wings full of batteries. And it's coming. Everything's changing, just like everything always changes. It's the way it works.
I'm skeptical about large aircraft. I think that's going to be more of a biofuels scenario, but I'm open to the possibility. I would love to fly on a jetliner that's powered by batteries. That would be amazing.
Really
you think of that. Say what?
They'd be really quiet. They still have something spinning to pull forward, but
yeah,
raw, it'd be different.
Yeah. I think the propellers do make a fair amount of noise when they're moving through the air, but maybe if there's many of them, like the Solar One, that aircraft, it had super long wingspan. It was more like a glider, right? And then it had several engines on each wing. So we could see, totally alternative architectures emerging, which would be cool. All right. Another interesting story here about solar in the gas industry. If you don't know it, there are gas pipelines all over the United States. It's basically a power grid fueled with natural gas pipelines that go under the ground mostly. And of course, you have to move that stuff around. You have to put it into tanks. You have to compress it. You have to run the lights at the facility. But what's the story here?
Well, the simple story is simply that we're replacing a gas compressor with a solar-powered compressor. And normally, that's nothing special. It's another 2.5 megs of solar. We professionals do this all the time. It's got a net metering agreement, saves them 25% off their bill, blah, 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 blah. Cool, great. I just like it because this represents the solar world slowly taking over in little places here and there. I had a gentleman who I worked with for a while. He was chasing oil plus solar facilities out west. He thought it as a real smart niche. And people are building solar plants at oil so that they can keep pumps running 24/7. So they have batteries, because it's expensive to run on gas out there, different machines. Not all the sites have consistent gas that comes up out of the ground. The gas, because they're fracking oil. And so the oil comes consistent, but the gas isn't. So they can't make systems dependent on it. And so this is just solar sneaking into different places and taking over in different places. And that's really why I thought it was neat. It's only covering a quarter of the electricity, but now there's a solar power plant there instead of gas, and that's affecting revenues just a little bit.
Yep. Well, talking about solar that is sneaking into different places, here we have a story about a building integrated PV technology. I guess this is Europe's version of the Tesla solar roof tile. What are we looking at here?
There are quite a few people that have a solar shingle type product. It literally is just solar. You can see the shape of it here. And, they're more expensive, but I just think they look cool. And I think they're going to be pretty significant going forward. So I translated the post. It's Dutch. And one of the comments he makes is that there's a rule in the Netherlands that you have to have a certain home efficiency level, and talks about that number very, very quickly in the post. And he says the only way to get to the future is to have on-site electricity generation. And if legislatively they force something like that, that's awesome, because that's similar to California's semi-rooftop mandate. If we get into the habit of every single structure that's new, having solar, having storage, being wired for being ready for this stuff, having EV chargers, that's a big step. That's just fundamentally altering the infrastructure from the most base level. And I like it. I love seeing these products. I talk to many residential people who are like, I like solar, but we want it to look nice. My husband likes it looking pretty. My wife likes it this way. So blah, blah, blah. Well, pretty soon that's not going to happen anymore. And really, the next two installations we have there are just sweet looking solar projects.
Say that again.
I was really saying this week I spent plenty of time looking.
Catch that.
This week I spent plenty of time looking at cool residential solar power projects. I've been into it because my residential guy is building more projects, and I got to pay attention and learn more stuff nowadays.
Excellent. I wanted to wrap up by revisiting Battery Day. This is the landing page, 2020 annual meeting of stockholders and Battery Day. Tesla's been in the news because they did a 5-to-1 stock split. The stock went through the roof a couple months ago. It's quadrupled year over year. And even though they did this stock split, now over $400 a share, the stock split doesn't change the value of the company. But anyway, this is a big moment for the EV and for the battery to grid industry. I believe it is probably going to be a day that we remember for a very long time. And I know my children are struggling to get excited about this the way I am. But are so important, John. They are power plants that give you energy 24/7 and just so much flexibility. And if you put the battery with clean power, you're getting clean power out. And that is fundamental to steering of climate change and climate chaos.
Yeah, first off, Elon is such a great showman, and he's so interesting to people with his various hobbies that he alone really started, well, not he, his company and his 10,000 business partners really kickstarted the battery revolution starting in the 2015-ish period when he built the Gigafactory. Before that, prices were double, triple what he was, doing 2-3 years ago. Now they're 5x. I mean, batteries have the exact same curve almost as solar did, starting in 2007, 6, 5, whenever it was. And so first off, Elon, great job at talking it up and making batteries cool. I mean, who the heck thought batteries would be cool? And then today is going to be it's just a significant move. The technology, the potentials of tomorrow are going to be really, really powerful. And, we're going to talk about the Tesla Semi. He's going to talk about the super fast cars. He's going to talk about this new battery type, which is 45% more dense than the densest product in the world already. And million-mile batteries made with the 3 largest battery manufacturers in the world. So I think it's cool. I'm going to put my feet up, drink a beer. I'm going to have fun watching it.
Yeah, check it out this afternoon at, 4:30 Central. And I wanted to comment that, Tesla is on a tear building factories right now. They just propped up a factory in Shanghai, China that is now rolling out Model 3s and soon Model Ys. They built that factory in 126 business days. It is crazy how fast they can build gigafactories. They're talking about terafactories now. They're building a factory in Austin, Texas, with lots of room for expansion. They're going to make the Cybertruck there in Austin. They're building Gigafactory Berlin. So they're soon going to go from their Fremont and Nevada operations to having now Shanghai, Austin, and Berlin. They're going to have 5 major production factories, right?
Well, they also have Buffalo.
And I will not be surprised if they make some. Oh, Buffalo, 6, yeah. What do they make in Buffalo?
I think that's a really big question. The solar roof is going on there. That's mostly what's happening there. But it's coming slow. It's, it's Elon magic. So you got to add an extra couple of years to it.
Yep.
6 factories.
Yep.
Though.
Tesla is eventually going to go hard. Tesla is going to go hard after solar. They've gone soft after solar, I think, really right now, trying to keep the eye on the ball with the EV business. They are poised to make major inroads with PV and, of course, grid scale batteries. So, well, John, thank you so much for your insight and bringing so many stories to us. I want to remind Power Hour is brought to you by Continental Energy Solutions. Check us out at cesnrg.com. We are solar and storage experts here in the Midwest and expanding nationally. And you can find all of our content on YouTube. Just Google John Weaver, Tim Montague, and the Clean Power Hour. You'll find us on YouTube. Please subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Send us comments. We'd love to hear from our listeners and viewers about what you want to see. We want this show. And of course, hit that bell to get all the latest updates. Thoughts, John?
Man, stay focused. Keep working hard every day. The change is coming. I got more projects than we can keep up with. So keep finding me online at commercialsolarguy.com. Just type that into Google. You'll find us. We're an EPC, so we can build projects, and we also do consulting nationwide. But there's so much business out there, so many projects to work. There's a lot going on. Keep your eye on the ball, Tim, just like you said a moment ago for Tesla.
And next week, we'll have a post breakdown for you all, of course, and we'll get to see photos of John in his new Tesla. Looking forward to that.
Absolutely.
Have a great day, everybody.